It is Wednesday, July 21st. I'm still house sitting. Clearly this is not my kitchen. This lovely kitchen is not my kitchen. Still house sitting. It's the middle of the week. I mentioned that I'm not meditating because this isn't my space, and I've tried meditating in places where it's not my space, and I mean, do I feel relaxed and peaceful? Yes. But I don't see the purple, the waves, my waves. I don't see my waves. And so I just kind of stopped trying, especially because I have Mochi here, and she's kind of like on a schedule, and I'm trying to honor that. And then I'm trying to honor my schedule, what I have planned for the day. And so, so yeah, but I'm still experiencing things, right? I'm still experiencing things as I'm here, and just still trying to juggle this transition for myself. Okay, let me stay focused. So what prompted me, so a couple things. I finished watching that other movie. I finished watching that movie that was triggering me. I watched it 2 days ago, or maybe it was yesterday. I don't remember when I recorded that other one about that movie, The Best of Me, triggering me. But I ended up watching it, right? Because I'm not one to run away from my triggers, like confront it. So I finished watching it, and then I came across another movie, and it was called what is it called? Something the tiny things. It's like a adult, like a teen movie. The Map of Tiny Perfect Things is what it's called. It's on Amazon. It's such a cute movie. I really enjoyed it because it talked about, in essence, being stuck, time standing still, and then manifesting, right? And if you've seen the movie, like she manifests, like the emotion was so strong that she manifested this situation, and so there's this element of being stuck, this element of grief and loss, death, facing your fears, right? And then at the same time, exploring and discovering these tiny perfect moments, ordinary tiny perfect moments in everyday life, and valuing and appreciating it, right? Like there's this conversation about these grandiose, like, dreams and goals, and then there's this realization of how much the simplest thing can bring so much pleasure, right? Living in that moment, right? Because that's really what it is. All of these tiny moments are moments of present time, of this repeated day, that they relish and appreciate and capture. And then there's that science piece of it, right, that I really enjoy. And she's talking about like the 4D or something like that, and this, I'm not a math person, but in essence, like, it's this map, and the connection, right? The connection that's being made into just elevating ourselves from this 3D life into something bigger than us. And it really comes down to those moments, right? That invoke emotion in that way. And it's really the present time. And so I really enjoyed it, even though it only got 6.8 out of 10 reviews. But when you, and then it's really about perception, right? It's really about perception. This movie is about perception, how you view your situation. And you see the shift in the characters as they realize this, they have this realization, and then they start shifting how they're responding to their situation, and then there's this ripple effect. So it spoke to me in that sense of, like, that's what all of this is, right? I mean, even these videos, it's about your perception, right? I mentioned that I got my first thumbs down, so I was like so excited about that because it's about perception. So there's that little rant. But this morning, so I still listen to MJ, right? MJ's message. And she's really the person I go to. Hers is like a daily thing. And then there's like Christina Lopes, who's more of like this. I mean, she's a heart alchemist. So I'm learning a lot from her. But there was something that MJ said this morning that really triggered me, in the sense of like, made me question and kind of made me wonder like, okay, well, what is this really, right? Because it's the second time I hear it. So she said the violet flame. Did I mention my timeline? Yeah, July 21st. And so she's it's titled The Violet Flame, and I'm going to include the link in there. And she's referencing, because I took notes. She's referencing Saint Germain. So I'm just like, okay. One, who's Saint Germain? Two, what is this violet flame? And three, I've heard this before, and I was trying to remember where, and I think it's Christina Lopes. There's this one video, which I'll include in the link as well in the description box below. She's talking about spirit guides, and she's talking about how there's like, and she's listing so many, and she's like, oh, you know, the one that's pulled towards you, or the one you feel called to, right? Go and research it or something. I didn't feel a pull to any of them. One. Two, but she made a description of one, and I don't remember. I have to go back and look now. Now I'm curious to see if it's the same person. It's the same spirit, Saint Germain, that she's referring to, because she talked about this violet color, and that's, I think I've shared it before. Like my waves that I see, it started off this violet background, like this purple, dark purple background. And then it shifted to where it divided in half, to where it's like the horizon almost, where the sky, if you will, is the violet part, and then the ocean is the shadowy part. And that's where I see my waves, right? That's how it started off. Like it was just waves. And then when she said the violet flame, it triggered in me those times where my waves converted into flames. Like it looked like fire. It looked like fire. Like it took the like two flames. It was one. I remember it started off as one, and then it split into two. And then more recently, no, not more recently, the video that I'm preparing to post next, I'm talking about it. The video that I'm preparing to post next week. It's next week. Because I was debating whether or not to prepare it to start doing like once a day again, because I've only been doing a weekly right now during this transition. But then I was like, okay, no, I need to get back to it. And so I was debating whether or not to prepare this one to post the following day. And I was listening to it yesterday, and I'm talking about my waves again, but that it looked like flames, that it looked like a flickering of flames. Like it was two, and it was meeting up to the top, and it looked like a flickering of a flame. So of course, so the title of this morning's, I was like, geared towards, I was like, oh, what does that mean, right? So she's talking about Saint Germain. So I don't know who this person is. And then she's talking about, it's just funny because, so she's talking about like, she's just like, this is for some of you. And then she's like, if you're one of those that things that you're supposed to, you're sitting in it. If you're sitting in it, you're still sitting in it, right? In the energy of it, meaning the emotion, right? That's what she's referring to. And then she's saying, if you're feeling that, that's what you need to do, right? Feel it to heal it. So I just started laughing because that's what I've been telling people. I'm like, you gotta feel it to heal it. You gotta feel it to heal it. And then she's just like, no. But it was funny because she said those terms. So I was just like, oh my gosh, she's talking to me. Like, that's how it felt like. I was just like, oh my gosh, she's talking to me, right? Clearly, it's not me. It's a collective me, right? So there's a group of us that believe this. But she's saying, she's just like, no. She's like, you need to add on to, you need to be in the light of where you want to go. Which makes sense. It makes sense, really, right? You can't just sit in it all the time. Eventually, You have to do something with that energy. And that was the video that I recorded a couple weeks ago about transmuting the energy. That's what she's talking about, right? So in essence, right, it's not feel it so you can heal it. It's missing a piece. That's only two sides to a triangle. You have to feel it to transmute it so that you can heal it, right? Or is it feel it so you can heal it and then transmute it? Feel it, transmute it, heal it. It's got to be one of those combinations, right? You have to feel it first. So we can't cope through life. We have to feel it and then transmute it so that we can heal it. I think that's what it is. Feel it, transmute it so you can heal it, right? And when she's talking about transmuting, it's really this ability to recognize the emotion, to see it in the experience for what it is, appreciate it, and then send it off. Like transform it into the energy that you want it to become, and then transfer it off, right? And so I just started laughing when she said that's just like, oh, that's okay. So that's the part that I was missing, right? And then she's talking about there has to be a break. There has to be a break between the past, this constant past, future, and I'm just like, oh gosh. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of these freaking videos. These freaking videos that, because I mentioned that there's a gap between when I post it and then my real time. When I'm preparing to post it, it's like I'm reliving it again. So depending on where I'm at in the healing phase of it, sometimes it triggers in me, and then sometimes it's not as strong. And then the more I'm exposed to it, right? The more I'm confronting it, the less of an emotion the less intense it feels, right? Because I'm becoming familiar with it. So there's that piece of it where she's just like, you need a break. So it's just like, well, I'm in a period of transition right now, right? Where I have a break. I'm not working. I haven't been working. And I'm okay with that because I'm asking for help and I know it's gonna get better, right? I know it's gonna get better. And so that happens. I was just like, okay. So then now I'm like trying to think, should I be posting? And I mentioned it before, for those of you that are following my story, like I've mentioned it before, like this need to like close that gap so that it becomes more of my present time versus too far back to where I'm constantly getting triggered. Regardless, I'm still moving forward. So she talked about using this full moon in Aquarius to really kind of bring it to a release, right? I'm going to go to this full moon sound bath ritual. I've never heard of it. It was recommended to me by, I mentioned this voiceover actress that I met through working with Hannah. She invited me to go once, but she never sent me the link. So she sent me the link, and I reached out to her. I'm like, hey, are you gonna go? And she's just like, yeah. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go. It's only $15, and her sister does it, and so I've never been. I'm curious about it, so I'm gonna go with hopes that this helps with this healing, like just kind of bringing everything to like a nice little like, you know, like okay, being able to finally kind of just like bring this chapter to a close. And it's just this chapter of my life as I'm leaving it behind and moving forward to this new chapter in San Francisco. And so I really just want a fresh like start, let's just start all over. even though I wouldn't change this past year for the world, and I shared this with a loved one yesterday, because I was reminded, I was triggered. I'm like, oh snap, like we're close to the end of July. Like this is it. This is the anniversary of when this first mirror was lifted, right? Where the ripple effect, where everything was like, right? All the domino domino effect really took place almost exactly a year ago. At the end of this month, next week will be officially a year when all of this went down, and just everything that came after that, and the unfolding of events, the way it has been unfolding. And so I was mentioning this to her because I was reminded of it. I was like, oh wow, like we're at the end of July, like this is it, this is when it all started. And then before she got a chance to ask me the question, I answered her. I'm like, I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't change. Everything unfolded exactly as it should. And I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful for it. I'm grateful for every individual that crossed my path over this past year in the way, in the manner that it did, and because I wouldn't be here without them, right? So if you're one of those individuals that have been a part of my life this past year, we crossed paths for whatever reason, however long of time we've crossed paths, thank you. Thank you for this experience, because it's really been an incredible year, an eventful year, my best year, the best year of my life, and it's only gonna get better. It's only gonna get better. I know it's only gonna get better. And so there was that realization, right? But anyways, the violet flame. So I was just like, okay, what is this violet flame? So I looked it up. And so then it talks about, so I found this website. And again, everything with grain of salt, right? Initially I found this other website. And it was like really like religiously based. And it was like this, there was a lot of chanting involved. And it looked like it was a video from like the 70s, maybe 70s, and there was like some interesting chanting, and I was just like, I'm like, I'm trying not to judge, and I was just like, I'm just gonna put you right here. I'll put you right here while I dissect you and kind of feel you out. I'm not used to chantings, and I mean, I remember going into Catholic churches when I was younger, and there was this sense of chanting when you know, when there's that repeated like after the priest says something, and then the collective kind of like responds, and there's this like almost chanting, like just this repetitive like, you know, like, not that I'm laughing at it, but it just, I'm trying to remember what so there's this chanting and this and I was wondering about that. I'm like, why do they do that? Why do they do that? And I remember that was something that I grew up being taught, that, well, that's why we don't do that, because they're just mindlessly chanting. Mindlessly. Or there was this assumption, right? This judgment that people were mindlessly doing this without even realizing what they were doing. But then when I started meeting other people that were Catholic and asking them about it, some people, it was this mindless, like, oh, I don't know, I just do it because that's how I was taught. But then there was this other group of people that actually understood it and would explain to me that, like, no, there's purpose in that, because there's a sense of ownership and a sense of, like, this thing about repeating things, right, over and over, so that it becomes a part of you. So then now that I'm thinking about it, in mental health, right, it's the similar concept when we're talking about affirmations, where we're, you know, with CBT, right, we're having to restructure your thought and belief into another thought or belief that will trigger a different emotion, right, and then hence a different action. And so there's this restructuring of this belief, but then you're creating these statements to replace what you believed at one point, and then you're in essence training yourself that whenever this thought or belief comes up, you're replacing it with this thought, and this constant, like, repetitive motion of, like, when this pops up, you replace it with this one. When this one pops up, you replace it with this one, right? And then some people, it's like, I would write down my affirmations on Post-its and put them all over my wall in my mirrors. So there's the first thing I see, so that I'm reading it over and over and over again to make it my own, to eventually make it an automatic thought, right? To replace any other thoughts that might come up for me. So it's the same concept. It's just differently. It's looked at differently, right? So I'm like, okay, so I watched that video. I was like, it's a lot of chanting. It served a purpose, but it doesn't feel comfortable for me right now, right? So as I'm reading this, it talks about alchemy, and it talks about how the violet flame is a gift and a tool for all of us, and it's essential in a spiritual alchemy. And so then it's like transmuting, like you're changing certain things, raising the lower self to unite with your higher self, and they use the violet flame to do it. The color violet has long been associated with spiritual energy, which makes sense, right? A lot of churches have purple, and I didn't realize it actually until I created my little thing. My battery's running out, but anyways, so it says how does it work, and then how to bring on the violet flame, and it has 3 ways to bring on the violet flame. For the record, I did none of these things. And I'll include the link below so you can just check out this website. I'll try to remember to write it down, but my battery is out. I'll cut it here because it's 21 minutes anyways. But I just thought that was weird. And so I'm going to dive into this violet flame, Saint Germain stuff, and kind of read up on it a little bit more. And then I'm going to that full moon ritual tomorrow. So I'm excited about that. So we'll see what happens next. All right, take care. My name is Yubi, and in case you haven't figured it out, this footage is capturing my experience as I learn to navigate my personal spiritual awakening. I am learning that this experience is unique to each one of us. In whatever way we believe we are embracing living our truth, this just happens to be my journey. And despite me having a graduate degree and a license in clinical social work, this by no means is intended to replace any type of mental health advice. This is just me on a personal level, documenting my experience, shedding light on the truth that I am learning and discovering for myself, and really inviting you along for the ride. If by some magical chance you find this content to be helpful in any way, shape, or form, please click the like button, share the message, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have an Instagram account, a personal one, and one specifically for this channel that you're more than welcome to check out. I'm an open book. I have also created t-shirt designs. I'm wearing my favorite one right now, which is the North Node design, but I have that and other things that you can look at inspired by this process and journey, and I have the link in the description box as well as in the about section of my YouTube channel. So you're more than welcome to check those items out. Any type of support is great. Again, if you find this content really helpful or meaningful, sometimes when we take that step and be vulnerable, with showing what's inside our hearts and what's really our truth, we realize that we're much more connected than what we thought we were. And so I hope that as I'm living this experience and that you find some type of truth for yourself, or find some type of ability to heal in some way just by relating, just by knowing that you're not alone. That really has been my goal with this process, not just being able to connect with others, but really for my own healing. It's definitely been a therapeutic experience and a very creative one for myself. So I thank you, and